Ah!
Hey everyone, it's Blue here, and this week we are doing a Blues Budget Brews. Blues Budget Battle Brews. So this is the $20 budget brew decks for 60-card kitchen table formats. And this week we are going to be doing a Dimir Mill, or for those of you who don't know, Dimir meaning black-blue. All right? So I'm going to go over the deck, do a small little upgrade section, then we'll get out of here. All right? So as I said, it's Dimir Mill, and if you don't know Mill's strategy is basically to take a card from the top of a player's library and put it into their graveyard. That's what mill means, and obviously the player is going to be your opponent. And the strategy is obviously to mill your opponent's deck into oblivion. So let's show you what I got here as my budget version of this, and then we'll go from there. We start off on the creatures, not a lot of them in here. First things first is we're going to go with the Jace's Phantasm. The reason for that is it's a 1-to-cast, 1/1 flyer. It's an alt-win condition and defense. So the alt-win condition is, if for some reason your opponent's not playing creatures, then you can attack straight through. It's a 1/1 flyer, but we're a mill deck. So Jace's Phantasm gets +4/+4 as long as an opponent has 10 or more cards in their library or in their graveyard. Yeah, in their graveyard. So basically, if you've milled 10 cards, it's now a 5/5 flyer. So I've got a playset of those. And the reason why these are in here for defense is because they're a 5/5 flyer, technically, when you get the right conditions. So not a lot of people can attack through that. Defensively, again, we're going to go with Fog Bank. So this one's a 2-to-cast, 0/2 defender flying, which means it can't attack. And then it's also prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and by Fog Bank. So it's basically just a unkillable wall through combat damage. It can still be murdered. It still can be shocked and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind. The last creature in the deck will be Wall of Air. Again, it's a flying with a big butt defender. It's 3-to-cast for a 1/5, and it's just a flyer to help block some of those big baddies come through. I got 4 of them in there. Undead Alchemist, it's in here as a creature. It's really not in here to be the creature, but we'll go over it. It's a 4-to-cast, 4/2. It's a zombie itself. It says if a zombie you control would deal combat damage to a player, instead, so it's not going to deal damage, that player mills that many cards. So what that means is with Undead Alchemist out, if it hits the attacker and it hits somebody, it will, instead of doing 4 damage to the person, it will mill 4 of their cards, okay? The bonus to this is this. Whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from their library, or it's milled, that exile that card instead and create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So you can get a little horde of zombies if your opponent's playing a creature-heavy deck, and it also gives you defenders and ways to mill with zombies. So that's why that's in here. We're going to go into the mill cards now. So we've got Mind Sculpts. I got 4 of these in here. It's a playset. Target opponent puts the top 7 cards of the library into the graveyard, or target player mills 7 cards, and it's a 2-to-cast sorcery. Bond of Insight. So that's a 4-to-cast sorcery. Each player, that includes yourself, puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, or mills 4 cards, and then return up to 2 instants and or sorceries from your graveyard to your hand, and then you exile Bond of Insight. This is to help get you better mill cards back into your hand, like a Mind Sculpt. So that's what that's in there for. But the added bonus is that you can also mill 4 cards for everybody. So I got 2 of them in there only. Next, we got Paranoid Delusions. It's 2-to-cast sorcery. It's target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So he mills 3 cards, he or she, or they. Then it has the ability Cipher. This is a new one. I haven't really gone over this very much. Cipher says that after you've cast this card, you may then exile the spell encoded on a creature you control. So pick anything you have on the board if you have one. And then when that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast this spell for free. So if you put it on one of those 2/2 zombies or even the Undead Alchemist himself, you can cast a Paranoid Delusions, making it so that you mill 3 cards from your opponent's library. So I got a play set of those in there. Reap the Intellect. So it's a blue, a black, 2, and X. So it's an expensive spell. This is like a late game ending the game. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose up to X non-land cards from it and exile them. For each card exiled this way, you search that player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as the card that you've exiled, and you exile them as well. Then that player shuffles his or her library. So basically, you take a look at their hand. If they have 3 cards in it and they're all different, you choose those cards. And then you can search the rest of their hand if they have more cards of the same copy, their library, and their graveyard, and exile those. So it's not really mill per se, but it kind of fits the theme of it. Pilfered Plans is the next one. So target player puts the top 2 cards of their library and puts it into their graveyard, and then you draw 2. So basically it says target player mills 2, you draw 2. Okay? Got 4 of them. I've recently come to a new way of looking at creature removal. I've learned that it's a little bit cheaper in some ways and a little less restrictive to use cards like this, like Tar Snare, instead of things that say destroy target creature with power 2 or less for 3. Why don't we just do Tar Snare? Target creature gets -3/-2 until end of turn. So this is a new way for me. It's a new avenue I'm using to get to creature removal. In the same vein, we've got Agony Warp. So it's 1 blue, 1 black. Target creature gets -3/-0 until end of turn, and then another target creature, could be the same one if you want it to be, gets -0/-3. So you can kill something with a toughness 3 for 2. And I got 4 of them in there. Next up, Psychic Strike. So it counters a spell, and then its controller mills 2 cards. That's basically what this reads as for 3. Millstone is what started the whole mill thing in general. It's a 2 cast artifact. I have 2 of these in here, just so you're aware. I don't normally put 2 rares of the same in a deck, but this deck deserves it or needs it. It's a 2 cast artifact that you can pay 2 and tap it and mill 2 cards from target player's library. And then the rest is the lands. So we've got a place at the Dismal Backwaters, and then, you know, swamps and islands to fill out the rest of the deck. So that's the basics of the deck right there. With that said, it's pretty simple, straightforward. Mill your opponent's deck or do combat damage through the tokens that you've created. All right. So now we get to go over the upgrade section real quick. All right, so let's have a little fun. This is one of my original ideas that I used to use back in the day. I used to do mill control all the time. So this one's kind of a specialty for me. So let's upgrade some of the creatures, all right? As far as creatures go, you're probably going to take out as you get it, because these cards are a little more expensive. This is, you know, this is the budget version. What I'm going to tell you is going to be a little bit more costly, monetarily speaking. All right, so with creatures, you're going to take out the Jace's Phantasms and probably replace them with something like a Roan Crab. It's one of the newer crabs that mill people. You're going to take out the Wall of Airs and put in Hedron Crabs. So you're going to turn this from Dimir, just basic mill, to Dimir Crab Mill. All right. As far as spells go, you can take a look at taking out the Paranoid Delusions and replace that with something like a Glimpse the Unthinkable. You've got the Bond of Insight and the Fog Banks. You can take them out and put in something like a Fractured Sanity. You can take out the Mind Sculpts, and here's where you're going to get a little weird. You can do either or you can do both and replace one of the other suggestions I've said. So you're going to take out the Mind Sculpts and put in either Archive Trap or Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and you can do both. I'm going to say you can do either or, and the either or comes down to, so if you're going to use Archive Trap, you want to be using that when an opponent is playing something like Fetch Lands or Evolving Wilds or something else to help them search their deck so that you can get the 0 to cast part of Archive Trap. If you don't play with somebody who does have that, go with Tasha's Hideous Laughter. It's a better choice. As far as creature removal, you can take out the Tar Snares. Again, that's an experimental thing for me to start doing recently. I'm starting to see some benefits in that as being creature removal. However, there are better options out there, something like a Fatal Push. Same thing with the Agony Warp. You can take that out, and you can use something like Drown in the Lock. That one actually helps you in a couple ways. You can either destroy something because you're milling, and that's what the downside is to Drown in the Lock, is that you have to have an opponent with stuff in their graveyard. You can use it to destroy a creature, or you can use it to, I forget what the other part is. That's the only reason why I want it in there. I'm going to have it up there so you can see what the other part is. It works for both, and both sides, or both options work, all right? You can take out the Psychic Strikes and put in something really cool. Visions of Beyond. It's a 1 to cast, draw a card spell. However, if your opponent has 20 cards or more in their graveyard, you can actually draw 3, so it turns it into an Ancestral Recall, which, if you don't know what that is, it's probably one of the best spells in all of Magic, which is one blue, draw 3 cards, target player draws 3 cards. It's really good, so you can do that. As far as the lands go, here's where it gets a little fun. So you can take out the Dismal Backwaters and put in whatever you can find as far as not coming into play tapped dual lands of black-blue. So I've written down here Water Grave, but you can use the new ones from I believe it's Midnight Hunt, or yeah, I believe it's Midnight Hunt that comes into play untapped if you control 2 or more lands. You can do that. You can do any of the versions that don't come into play tapped. All right. You can take out a couple basics and put in something like Nephalia's Drown Yard. And Ipnu Rivulet is a good option as well. It deals a little damage to you, but it mills 4 cards as a land. Or on the lesser side of all this, you can do a Duskmantle House of Shadow. That's one option you can do as well. And lastly, I'm going to give you an infinite combo, if you will, for mill. So if you want to be cheeky with it and you want to do something completely different, you can throw in there a playset of Dusk Mantle Guild Mages and a playset of Mind Cranks. And once you get that going, it's an infinite mill for your opponents. So that's just a couple of the upgrades you can do for the deck. It's actually not a bad deck. Again, I used to play this something like this. I used to do blue-white with Wrath of Gods. This seems to be a little bit more streamlined and a little bit faster. So take a look at it, check it out. Remember that this deck is going to be at the convention that I'm going to in a couple weeks. That's Geek Fest. It's in southern New Jersey in Woodbury. If you're in the area, which most of you probably aren't, check it out. If you are, again, it's for sale. It's a $20 budget deck. It's actually one of the more fun ones. People really hate decks like this, but I don't care. I love them. So, and that's what I got for you this week. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to get off your chest or suggest, go ahead and contact me a couple ways. I'm going to be at the Geek Fest in Woodbury, New Jersey in a couple weeks if you want to see me there. But otherwise, you can go to the Facebook page. It's BluebearsGames on Facebook. You can look it up. I think I have links in the description, and if not, I'll put them there. You can email me, bluebearsgames@gmail.com, or you can just type a comment in the section below and tell me how to contact you, and I will contact you. Whether or not that be for anything you need, if you want to purchase a deck or anything like that, go ahead. I'm free and open. So that's all the contact information. Do me another favor, please. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it out to somebody who might be interested in purchasing a deck like this. Again, as I said, it's for sale, $20 plus shipping if it's the only deck that they buy, or you buy. If there's somebody that wants to build a mill deck, this is a good option for it, and the upgrade section will tell you how to make it even better. Or just for somebody who wants to see fun, interesting builds on a budget. Other than that, that's my time for the week. I want to thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all next week.